I'm Scott Parody. Thanks for joining me, taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedule to hear what I have to say and hopefully provide some feedback and some input. And if you haven't watched my other live or my other presentation, what I was talking about is I've decided to share a sneak peek of the project that I'm working on, which is I'm writing a book, which I'm tentatively titling Follow the Money. It's never about the money. The idea being that we empower money and money controls our lives when its life is not about money. Now I've been pursuing, I'm trying to build a network, build my network. So I've been reaching out through LinkedIn to folks who are involved in the tech space and the entrepreneurial space and so forth. And I've decided to engage through these lives to ask for both input and some feedback on this project to make the message that I'm trying to deliver as compelling and powerful and impactful as possible. So that's really what I'm asking of you today is give me some feedback. Let me know if these ideas resonate with you and if what I'm talking about really matters to you. Because that's what I want to do is I want to make a contribution and an impact that actually ultimately changes lives. So as I said, I'm reaching out and I might have reached out to you on LinkedIn and I'm making these connections. And one of the interesting things is I've been doing this for a few months now. And as I make connections through LinkedIn, I ask for folks, hey, if you want to get acquainted phone call, by all means, schedule one and we'll have a 15, 30-minute conversation just to get acquainted because it's the network that we build is more important than just these digital connections, if you will. Let's learn a little bit about each other and make a real person-to-person connection. So I invite you to do that. By all means, is connect with me and then let's actually get together and have a conversation so we'll know each other a little better, where we're coming from and how we can collaborate and improve each other's lives, if you will. Now, the book that I'm working on, the idea is I was trying to think of what are people most concerned about? And there are a lot of things, of course, their health, their relationships, all of those are very, very important things. But when I look at what do people spend most of their time, energy, and effort on, I realized money. Money is that thing that so many people spend so much time, energy, and effort on. So I decided this is my second book. I'd written another book called Money, The New Science of Making It, but this is a more refined approach to help people understand what I call money magic. Money is this made up social construct, this idea, a bright idea that solves a problem of helping us exchange the value that we create. It's just a bright idea. It's a collective agreement. So, what I want to do is explore money to help people change their perspectives about money. It's just a bright idea. So, it shouldn't control our lives. But there is a cycle, a historical cycle that has repeated for as long as we have written records. So let's just go back to as soon as civilization gets to a certain size, and so we'll say civilizations, if you will, started from families and then grew into what we might know as tribes. But once we go beyond tribes, once we go beyond personal relationships and society enlarges, what we might call a chiefdom, a kingdom, or what we know as a state, then we organize through our social organization. Remember, I mentioned three things evolve spontaneously in human society. The first is language. The second is what we could characterize as law. These are these rules of engagement, if you will. How are we going to get along? How are we going to treat each other? Those things evolve spontaneously in all human society. So, what we see is this historical cycle, this cycle that repeats itself over and over and over again. It is this cycle of people coming together, collaborating and creating and actually advancing. But then what happens is through this advance, we empower this other evolution, this idea of money, that third thing that evolves spontaneously. We empower money. And then some folks, some ambitious, cunning folks realize that Since money is the most important thing, or at least what we make to be the most important thing, because we can get everything else with money, we empower money. Once we empower money, the game changes. It changes enough that money now becomes the goal, and that money can be used to manipulate and control people. Now, Ray Dalio, he's written some books, and he's been putting out this message about the cycle repeating itself, and he calls it a debt cycle. A debt cycle where people take on more and more debt until ultimately people realize that this is unsustainable, and the system must change in one of two ways. We can do it peacefully, which historically is not the common way to do it. It can happen by a natural disaster, some sort of destruction, but typically it happens by some sort of revolution. So it is a violent change. Or we can do it peaceably. That is, we make a decision. We realize we're in the cycle and we break the cycle. So my question to you, can we? Can we break this cycle? What Ray Dalio and others refer to as a debt cycle, what I like to refer to as a power cycle. What ends up happening is we have society where power is distributed widely. We come together. We come together typically for one of three reasons. We come together out of fear, because to survive, we need to come together because the threat is so great that we feel like we must come together out of fear. We come together so that we can dominate some other society and take something from them, which has been a common occurrence throughout history. Or, on a positive vein, we come together to do something that we cannot do alone. And this is how we have repeatedly made advances in human society, by coming together. But what happens is, and we can look at this a different way, we can look at it as a cycle. So the power, we can see what we might call anarchy. So everything's just distributed, but then we stop fighting long enough to realize that we can prosper if we come together. So we come together and we create excess value, we create surplus, we create an economy, we start to begin exchanging this value that we create. We exchange this value, and then we thrive and prosper. But then as we thrive and prosper, what ends up happening is we always have the bold, the ambitious, and the cunning who realize that through simple manipulation, I can change the game. And they change the game, and we get what historically we see as a debt cycle. Rather than the violent confrontation, we substitute money and law for the violence that preceded it. But through money and law, we then can manipulate the masses who just want to live a decent, happy life. And what happens is then we create what we term debt. And then through this money cycle, that prosperity starts to become control. Power and wealth begin to concentrate. So we go from distributed to the masses, then it concentrates, the wealth and power concentrates until it is so concentrated, the masses just realize there is no advantage for them at all. And they just give up altogether. And then that's when we either have natural catastrophe or we have revolution. And then the system resets and starts all over again. Now, the question, I've been looking into this, I've been researching this, and I'm seeing more and more that people have decided, they've determined that this is a natural cycle. It is just the way things are. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe we, all of us, you and I and everyone else, are in control of the game we're playing. We get what we want, what we expect, what we make happen. So I believe we can break this cycle. Now, it's been going on for 10,000 years. I want to hear from you. Is your perspective that this is a natural cycle that inevitably occurs? So we have powers distributed, the power concentrates for one of those few reasons, and then ultimately it concentrates in very few hands. So it concentrates very tightly. The masses, the peasants, if you will, are powerless. Once they realize that, then there's a shakeup. Now, back in the day, some benevolent, intelligent, wise leaders realized they would have a built-in reset, and it was called a debt jubilee, where they would just reset the whole game board and start everybody over from scratch. But those were very rare, very, very rare. Instead, we go repeatedly through the cycle. Distributed power, we come together, we thrive and prosper, and then ultimately we concentrate wealth and power, and then the whole system collapses and we start again. So is that a inevitable historical cycle that we cannot break? Or do you believe that through different choices, we could actually break that cycle? Now, I'm not saying that's going to be easy. What we have to do is make some big, big changes, but I want to get your thoughts. Give me some thought, give me some feedback on what you think about this debt cycle, or what I call this power concentration cycle, where we repeatedly concentrate power, which we take all the power, the masses all just give their power to a few, into a few hands. And then, like the old adage, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Is that just a natural phenomenon which is going to repeat ad infinitum forever and ever? Or can we deliberately, purposefully break that cycle? What's your thought? Give me some feedback. Send me a message. One of the thoughts I had as I'm reaching out and expanding with the sneak peek of what I'm working on and getting your feedback is I thought of holding a Q&A session about money, the alchemy of money, money magic, if you will, on Fridays about, well, it would be noontime Pacific, and that would be what, 3 in the afternoon on the East Coast. My thought was do it on a Friday where folks often get off early, so you could just tune in, just share some of your thoughts and insight on this idea of money and some of these other ideas that I'm going to be proposing over the course of the next couple of months. Share that feedback in a live interactive Zoom. So if you're interested in that, send me a message and I'll set this thing up for this Friday, and then we can get this thing rolling, make some progress. If we can begin making progress of changing just one person's perspective, we change a perspective, that will mean they'll make different choices. I will make different choices if my perspective is different. Once I make different choices, the world changes. What I'm suggesting is we can change it in a positive, constructive way where we can thrive and prosper, as opposed to a destructive way that then destroys what we've built and then we've got to start over from scratch. That's been what has been repeating through human society. Let's break the cycle. Can we break the cycle? Give me your thoughts. I look forward to seeing you again. I'll see you soon.